Good evening. At this time, I call to order the special board meeting for the Faribault Public Schools School Board here on November 18th, 2024. Mr. Wolf, as acting clerk, would you determine if we have a quorum present?
Mr. Chair, we do.
Thank you. Would everyone please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance? I pledge
allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you all. Welcome to those in attendance and welcome to those watching online. Agenda item number 2 is approval of the agenda. Could we entertain a motion for approval of the agenda?
So moved.
Thank you, Mr. Olson. And do we have a second?
Second.
Thank you, Ms. Boudreau. Any discussion? Discussion? All those in favor of approval of the agenda signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? The motion passes. Agenda item 2A, consider accepting the bids for HVAC for Jefferson and McKinley. Could I have a motion, please, for accepting the bids for HVAC for Jefferson and McKinley?
So moved.
Thank you, Dr. Robichaud.
Second.
And Mr. Wolf for the second. And discussion. Mr. Benti, if you want to call up Mr. Smith and...
Would the board like for Mr. Smith to come up and explain some of the pieces around these two?
Yes.
I think that's
Okay, I
great.
believe so, yes.
It's a reminder that this is not anything to do with reorganization. This is just ongoing maintenance for the HVAC systems in our buildings.
Yeah, so just a quick overview of what this project is. It is the updating of our HVAC control systems. It would be replacing 4 rooftop units at McKinley and adding a rooftop unit at McKinley, and replacing 2 rooftop units at Jefferson.
And these bids are the ones that we approved, I believe, in the October meeting to go out to have bids approved and then came back and opening them, et cetera.
Yep.
I should add that this acceptance of the bids was approved by the Finance Committee this morning. I believe some time ago was also approved by the Facilities Committee as well. Dr. Robichaud.
Mr. Chair, thank you. Mr. Kane, when was the last time that Jefferson's HVAC system was addressed?
Oh my,
Long before you were here?
long before, yeah,
Okay.
I don't even know if, it might be original, to be honest.
Really?
Yeah, it's a pretty old system.
Okay. Thank you.
Original, I'm assuming, since when
When
air
the
conditioning
automation-
was put into the building.
Correct.
Right, okay, which
Correct.
might have been the 90s or whatever, something like that, I believe.
Yep.
Okay.
Would that be the same for McKinley?
I would, yeah, it's the same system,
Okay.
so yeah, I would say,
Thank you.
Further discussion?
Mr. Chair.
Mr. Olson?
Mr. Bendy said it has nothing to do with reorganization, but there could be a link there if it's, there's been no vote on reorganization. What's the consensus of the group here that the ALC will move to McKinley? Or is it going to move to middle school or to the high school or stay there? So eventually we're going to have to do something with McKinley. To do something with the HVAC, and then you come in there at a later date for a remodel of the kitchen and the rest of the school to address the ALC students, that doesn't seem to be the right procedure. If you're going to do everything, if the ALC is going to definitely go to McKinley, to me, it should be remodeled temporarily. Depends on how the board votes on the reorganization. If it's just temporary of putting the early childhood into the elementary schools, and they can remodel totally McKinley, the ventilation and the updates for the ALC. what's wrong with that concept? Unless you think that the board is going to move the ALC someplace else. To another building or to lease some space, I don't know.
Mr. Olson, from my chair, the discussion, obviously that vote or that discussion will be discussion. That vote won't happen until January. And the bids we approved to be sent out in October, they're back now without any sort of consideration for reorganization. So if classes stay there, so I don't see, maybe I'm confused or whatever, but yes, something must be done to those buildings, but I think the need is now in case nothing is done or whatever. So that's my viewpoint there. I understand your concern of now started doing the HVAC and then come in at a later date with construction, remodeling, or et cetera there. So
My concern is go in there, are they going to be changing the HVAC to meet the needs of the ALC students?
And since we're uncertain if the ALC students are going to be there,
Yeah, I'm assuming a lot.
yes.
But you guys take the vote or whatever happens with that. So
right.
just have a crew and then leave, then have another crew. That's not very efficient.
I understand.
So, Mr.
Dr.
Chair-
Moore?
Yeah, I just want to be clear here. So if we would do this and for some, we would have to go in later and for remodeling or whatever, the code, you're saying the codes could be changed maybe? And so we'd have to actually do this all over again? Is that what I hear you saying? It sounds like it. We may have to reduce some of this, what we want to do now.
Can I
Because of
just-
codes?
I'll try to clarify this just a little bit. The rooftop unit that we are adding at McKinley is for a science room, possibly. If we decide not to move the ALC to McKinley, that would be pulled out of our bid. That science room is the only part of the HVAC that would have to be altered in any way if we moved ALC to McKinley.
What about the kitchen?
Kitchen, that's part of a different remodel. That's not in,
So this is
The
not
scope
in
of
this
work.
bid? That's
No.
out of the food service?
no.
So, Mr. Smith, if we approve this tonight, and it has that additional unit for this potential science room, as you mentioned, and the board passes on moving ALC to McKinley in January, it's not too late, then you would just pull this out?
We'd pull that unit out.
Not an issue, okay.
Correct.
Thank you.
I just want clarification, Mr.
Go ahead, Dr. Moore.
Yeah, what do you mean pull the unit out? It's already there on the building or pull it
No,
out from the
no,
bid?
It's pull it out from the bid.
So you'd
It's-
pull it out from the bid, so it wouldn't cost us anything extra then?
Correct. Correct.
Okay.
Any further discussion? Further discussion, last call. Dr. Moore?
Yeah, I just want, so in my mind right now, it wouldn't cost us anything. We wouldn't have to redo anything. And as long as, because you could pull it out from the bid, not from, you wouldn't be going in there and making all the changes on the rooftop. We wouldn't have to do that over. It's just pulling it out from the bid. And you are able to do that then?
Correct.
Okay, so that makes sense. Thank you.
And Mr. Smith, will you explain that this work probably won't be done until next summer anyway, correct? The work actually on the roof itself?
It's this coming summer.
Yeah, this coming summer,
Yes.
yes.
Correct.
So it's not like they're going to start cutting holes in the roof next week.
No.
That's not how, so.
I hope not. No. I don't need that.
All right. Anything else? We have a motion for approval of accepting the bids for the HVAC for Jefferson and McKinley. All in favor of the motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
No.
Motion passes 5-1. Agenda item number 3, consider adoption of resolution, 25-10 to approve designation and appointment of recount official. So could I have a motion for adoption of resolution 2510 to approve designation and appointment of recount official, please?
So move.
Thank you, Mr. Wolf. And do we have a second?
Second.
Thank you, Ms. Boudreau. Before we begin the discussion, I have a statement to read here as an introductory to our discussion here. And it is as follows. Following the board's certification of the election results of the general election for school board members held on November 5, 2024, the school district clerk received a timely request for a recount. This election was for 3 board members for terms of 4 years to begin of January 2025. The recount request was made by the candidate that received the 4th highest number of votes in the election, or stated differently, the candidate with the most votes from among the candidates who were not elected. The election results show that 17 votes separate the elected candidate with the fewest votes, the 3rd highest vote getter, and the candidate with the most votes from among the candidates who were not elected, the 4th highest vote getter. This margin is within the 0.5% difference for a publicly funded recount under the circumstances. Given the request, the district must proceed with a recount. To administer the recount, the law authorizes for the designation of a recount official to conduct the recount on behalf, on behalf of the district. Denise Anderson, Elections Director of Rice County, has agreed to act as the recount official for the district's recount. Given Ms. Anderson's position as the election director for Rice County and her familiarity with the recount procedures, the proposed resolution is to approve the appointment of Denise Anderson as recount official and proceed with the recount pursuant to applicable state law. Ms. Anderson has already facilitated an initial notice of the recount to the candidates, and upon resolution from the board affirming her designation as recount official, Ms. Anderson would provide the official notice to the candidates and proceed with the recount in accordance with state law. Also wish to indicate that in consultation with the district attorney, this is the recommendation from the district attorney to appoint Ms. Anderson as the recount official. So with that statement being read, discussion.
Mr. Chair,
Mr. Wolf.
question for you. In there, it stated publicly funded recount. I'm wondering if Mr. Benty can tell us, is that publicly funded recount, do those funds come from the school district? Do they come from some county? Do they come from, Rice County? Do they come from the state? Where do those publicly funded funds come from?
The district is required to do the recount, so it would at this point, it would come from district funds.
And is that something that comes out of the general fund, or are we able to levy that back to our community?
Right now, it's a general fund expense. We have a call into MDE to see if we are allowed to levy that expense back to the taxpayers or not.
And do you have an estimated expense?
By the numbers that the county gave us, and these are rough numbers, with the time and the hourly wage and the number of people that will be involved, we're estimating roughly right around $3,000 to $3,500 per day of recount.
Okay, thank you. And some document that we saw, could be anywhere from 1 day to 2.5 days?
1 day to 2.5 days is what we saw,
Okay,
yes.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
You're welcome. Discussion.
Mr. Chair, I have a resolution or amendment on the motion. Have Dr. Moore read that because I had some eye injection, so I'm a little fuzzy around the edges.
So have her do the amendment that you're
Right,
proposing.
yeah.
Okay, so the
Okay.
amendment.
Well, she'll read it, I'm making the amendment.
Okay, thank you.
Okay,
Go
the
ahead,
res-
Dr. Moore.
Okay.
Sorry.
Resolution, as per council, to ensure a free and fair election, I hereby request that the board not designate and appoint Denise Anderson as a person to conduct the recount for the district. Denise Anderson is a defendant in an unresolved lawsuit against Rice County regarding a past election. Since Anderson has repeatedly stated that she cannot answer any questions due to the fact that this lawsuit is still unresolved, this makes her ineligible to conduct this recount. Also, since Rice County is part of this lawsuit, Rice County officials should not be eligible as well. I request that another county conduct the recount with an experienced, unbiased election judge, submitted by Richard Olson.
Thank you.
And
So-
I'm just going to add that was Minnesota Court Case Number 66-CV-22-2022.
Thank you, Dr. Moore. So I will take that first paragraph as your amendment from there, and then we'll get into the discussion afterwards. So with that amendment to the board the amendment is the request that the board not designate and appoint Denise Anderson as the person to conduct the recount for the district and to conduct the recount with an experienced, unbiased election judge. Is there a second to that amendment?
Second.
Thank you, Dr. Moore. And now discussion.
Mr. Chair.
Mr. Wolf.
And Mr. Benti, the document that you read earlier, was it not stated somewhere in there that it was recommended by council that we engage our local election official?
That is correct.
Okay, thank you.
I don't know if it said that. I'm scanning that.
I thought it was stated somewhere.
If it didn't state that, it is correct. Our attorneys have selected Denise Anderson as the person that should be doing the recount on our behalf.
Okay, thank you.
Mr. Benti, is there anything from this amendment that you have, discussions or anything you would like, that you see here?
I would just say that, you know, we're in one of those areas where a lot of us don't understand how recounts work. It's the school districts, you know, to be clear, the board is not deciding tonight whether we have a recount. We are having a recount. The board is deciding who will be the official over it. So if the board decides no to Denise Anderson, we still have to have a recount, and it would fall on us to figure out who then we would hire to do that, and have to work then with the county to release all of the ballots to that individual to do the counting. I'm sure there are timeframes in place that we would have to fall within as well. And there's no one in our offices that has really any experience or knowledge with this, which is why our council has said you go with the election officials in your county. Those are the experts when it comes to elections. So,
And it is also my understanding that each candidate is able to have someone in the room as the ballots are counted.
my understanding is only Dr. Robichaud and Mr. Olson. Those are the only two being recounted.
Right, but
Yes.
they can designate someone to observe the recount process. Am I correct on that?
I'm not sure if they can
I
designate.
believe so.
They can themselves be there. I'm not sure if they're allowed to designate someone or not. I would have to check on that.
Right, I thought at one time I read something.
It is with the
What?
council that I can have a team.
Yes, and, excuse me, Mr. Chair, as a resolution stated as per council.
Okay,
So this was, I know you talked with someone, so.
okay. I just wanted to bring that out, that
yeah.
there will be people in the room, observing the recount, the process, et cetera, like
Yes.
that, so, okay. Okay, again, we're discussing the amendment to the resolution to not appoint Denise Anderson as the person to conduct the recount for the district and have the recount official with an experienced, unbiased election judge. So any further discussion on the amendment to the resolution?
Mr. Chair, I just want a free and fair election. That's all I want.
Thank you.
Mr. Chair,
Ms. Boudreau?
is Denise Anderson currently in charge of our county elections?
Yes.
Yes,
Yes.
And the ballots that were counted are with our county office?
that is
Correct.
correct. Yes.
So moving it to another county, as was mentioned, would mean transporting those ballots and a lot more, probably, maybe more cost. I don't know if that's costs that our district will have to incur, but I'm concerned about that. Someone has to transport them. We don't know who else is available. If it's Steele County or Waseca County, and if they're even willing and available. Has anyone checked with those counties to see if they are available?
Mr. Chair?
Just a minute, I'd like to answer that. I'm going to say no right now because this amendment to the resolution just came forward this afternoon or today to me. So we would not, obviously, we have not had time to check on any of that or whatever, but I think since this is an amendment, we wait to see the result of the amendment, vote on the amendment to determine if we need to reach out, or if that motion passes, to reach out to whatever else we need to do next, I do believe. Dr. Moore, thank you.
Yes, I just want to address Ms. Bedrow's question. We could have probably somebody come in from a different county. We could keep the ballots here, that's a possibility, and have somebody from maybe Steele County or whatever, an election judge or an official, and come in, and that person would be in charge of the recount. So we could have somebody come in and not transport the ballots. I don't think it's a good idea to transport ballots, but I think we could have somebody possibly come in from another county.
And we would just have to remember, they would have to agree to do it.
Yes.
We don't just get to assign another county to
No,
do it. They would have to
of
agree
course.
to do it. So it might take a while to find a county that would agree to do it. And then we would also be, and it's the board's decision, but we would also then be on the hook for any and all transportation and mileage costs as well for those people to come to Faribault and to then go back home, so.
Mr. Chairman, I guess I'm just looking at cost. The district's already likely to pay maybe $8,000, I don't know. And I am not diminishing the fact that anyone has a right to ask for a recount. I applaud you for asking, Richard. I'm just concerned about spending more money, and this is on the taxpayers. To have another county do that, I don't know what their additional costs may be. If they bring in their own people, if they charge the same amount of money. Denise oversaw our entire Rice County elections and our state, federal elections in Rice County. Whether you trust her or not, I think the commissioners trust her, and she has been appointed by them and by our county officials. So I'm inclined to not support this, just due to the additional costs that may be incurred.
Any other discussion on the amendment?
I am
Dr. Moore.
concerned about the fact that Ms. Anderson I've been in meetings where she has refused to answer questions. And also FOIA requests sometimes have come through that information has not always been provided in certain instances. And hence, this is why this lawsuit is just keeping going and going and going. So I am concerned about Denise Anderson, and so I have to disagree with Ms. Bedrow.
Last call for discussion.
And whatever happens here, this will be referred back to my attorney.
Anything else? We're ready to vote on the amendment. So a yes vote would be in favor of the amendment. A no vote would be against the amendment as stated. And Mr. Wolf, with this, would you please do a roll call on this?
Ms. Boudreau,
No,
Ms. Moore,
Yes.
Mr. Olson,
Yes.
Mr. Robichaud,
No.
myself, no. Mr. Bellingham,
No.
4-2.
Amendment fails 2-4. So we're back to the original Resolution 2510 to approve designation and appointment of Denise Anderson as recount official. Is it last or second or third call for discussion here? Anyone? Anyone? Hearing none, we're ready to vote. Mr. Wolf, we do a
Okay,
roll
so
call
this
once
is
again, please.
Resolution 25-10 as presented. Ms. Boudreau?
Aye.
Ms. Moore?
No.
Mr. Olson?
No.
Mr. Robichaud?
Aye.
Myself, aye. Mr. Bellingham?
Aye. Motion,
4-2.
motion passes 4-2. With that, we are done. We have completed our agenda items. So item number 4, adjournment. Motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Thank you, Mr. Wolf. Do we have a second?
Second.
Thank you, Dr. Robichaud. Discussion? Discussion. Hearing none. All in favor signify by saying aye.